but so far it has not yet utilized which lot urge this nuke stock option, a complete oil ban, targeting the production how is accountable for 90% of the by the government's rental income. In spite the rhetorical among Nicolas Maduro and CEO Donald Trump card, refineries in the U.S. are yet purchase Venezuelan oil. Venezuela's country business PDVSA though owns refineries in Texas via a affiliate named Citgo. But in the meltdown increasing following Washington-supported opposition lead Juan Guaido's complaint to the chairmanship recent 1 week, a new circle of sanctions regime is anticipated in the upcoming days. On Saturday, U.S. Secretariat of Country Mike Pompeo unsuccessful to safe supporting of the joint nations safety justice versus Venezuela as China and Russia are shut Maduro allies. CEO Maduro supported downward of his consumer demand how U.S. diplomatic corps keep the nation and told both of countries now include a 30-date box to conduct negotiations the new regulation of their relation. Markets are observer now for which the U.S. will do following. In spite its fail in the safety justice, the Trump card authority has supporting of big provincial players such as Brazil, Argentina and Colombia. If it does eventually go versus Venezuelan petroleum, could how be the fingernail in the tomb of the nation's oil production, that has been in a meltdown of its own for year? And which impact could how include for the otherwise of the planet? A boomers in U.S. slate manufacture has helping cut wet prices above the history for persons year, though they include restored lightly. But 2019 is shaping up to be a really stimulating year for the product, and down there is no precise sign on that way prices will go. Oil is never a foreseeable case, yet, and down there are lot situations how could reason prices to peak. Manufacture is really flying in Nigeria and Libya. Iran is by a hard U.S. ban. Russia and Saudi Arabia are cut manufacture. Eventually down there are fears of a world slowing in the economics that could see prices drop due to a fall in consumer demand. The meltdown in Venezuela is else script monitored close by oil analysts. Down there is a general feeling in markets how Nicolas Maduro will not be remote of force in the close next and how tensions will hold on growing. As well largest analysts throw the complete nuke stock option, as how would include a destructive effect on the human beings of Venezuela, instead of a fair affecting the by the government. One of the largest potential scenarios debated is a fractional limitation of how lot oil the U.S. can buy of Venezuela. How would wound consumer in America and in the otherwise of the planet? Prices would growth as refineries would include to buy their stake of oil of more than costly source. Us refineries how buy of Venezuela would as well be adversely struck. But U.S. restrictions would gain Saudi Arabia, Mexico and Iraq, countries how as well make the identical kind of hard wet oil. Canada as well produces hard wet but it does not include logistics ability to growth its supply. These countries include been consuming in Venezuela's marketplace stake for year. Venezuela would be the largest losing of all, of year. The nation has the planet's greatest tested oil reserves, though greater rather than Saudi Arabia, but it is quickly fleeing out of cash to perspective for wet and pump it out of the land. In the deceased 1990s, Venezuela was making more than rather than 3 millionth barrels of oil per date. Exit present is soaring over the 1 millionth mark, onto export. Though out of any world sanctions regime Venezuela's oil manufacture will decrease sharply the year since of the absence of invest. The bet of decrease in manufacture has been more than intensive in latter months. Helena Plot, of RBC Equity Markets, forecasts how exit the year will fall by 300,000 to 500,000 barrels per day out of any sanctions regime. Restrictions of Washington would speed the decrease. Venezuela would be capable to deroute portion of its manufacture to some purchase nations, love China, but it wouldn't be capable to undergo on all of its excessive oil to markets not verified in the U.S. Venezuela is yet seen as an oil power station, particularly since it is a manufacturer of hard wet, that is a kind not wide accessible in the planet. But the gravity of its economical meltdown may be change how. Though if a reformer by the government comes to force, the world society will include to start a main renovation and rehab force to get the nation behind up on its feet. The IMF now publishes individual indicators for Venezuela in its Roman US Analyze. The economics down there has be such an emission how it makes no feeling to comparison it to some countries. The year Venezuela's GDP is anticipated to achieve a new cheap, the economics will be part the amount of which it was in 2013. Recent year by the government tested once again to use oil to resolve its economical turmoil. It ended subsidies, grown the cost of gas within the country and ramped up its campaigning to use a cryptocurrency supposedly pegged to barrels of petroleum. Yet it unsuccessful to include bloating, that is mined to include cross the millionth per dime mark, and did not end its shortages of meal and medical. It's difficult to think lifetime receive any stronger for human beings in Venezuela. Now in crisp sanctions regime on the cards, it fair may.